Well, welcome Annie F. Downs to See Hear
Hi.
Love. It's great to have you here from Nashville.
That's right. All the way down from Nashville. I'm so glad to see you, Melinda. Thank you for having me on today.
This is going to be fun. It really is going to be.
Yes.
Now,
Promise.
Annie, yeah, promise. Annie, this show is about making space. And in a season and year like this, making space for fun sounds completely like, are you kidding me? Seriously, I've got all these other stresses and issues. But I think it's important. You think it's important. Why should we make space for fun in our lives today?
I actually think it's incredibly important. I mean, that's why I wrote That Sounds Fun book, is I think it is something we need to be talking about more than we are. One thing I've noticed through 2020 and into 2021 is that a lot of people are exhausted. We're tired of the life we have. We're tired of working from home. We're tired of the winter. We're just tired of things looking the way they've looked, and we need something to inject joy.
Mhm.
And we're waiting. What's probably true, Melinda, it's true about me, is we're waiting for everyone else to inject joy into our lives, or for the world to go back to normal so that it will inject the joy that we're missing out on. And I would actually say that one of the disciplines we need to add to our own lives is to find fun for ourselves. It is no one else's job to give us fun. It is our job to go after it.
That's good. You know, Annie, all throughout my life, it's interesting. As a follower of Jesus, people always made really bad comments about me always wanting to have fun as a Christian. It was a strange thing because I was always like the party girl, the wooer and strength finders, fun, boas, as you see here. And it seemed like within the church or sort of that Christian culture back when I was growing up, it was always kind of looked down on like, Mal, you got to like tone it down. So I'm so grateful for this fun, like, because I always thought there was something wrong with me because I was this Christian and I was crazy and fun, but it seems like it's okay. It's good.
Oh, it's more than okay. And I mean, we don't even have the time to talk about, the growing up experiences of women being told that they needed to settle down to be a good Christian. Because we don't even have enough time for that, Melinda. But
Next
to
show.
me,
Next show.
yeah, next show, let's talk about that. Because
Okay.
really, I had some of those stories said to me growing up too, some of those narratives of like, this very thin lane is exactly what a faith based woman is supposed to be. And if you fall out of that, if you are loud, if you are big, if you are a lot, then you need to rein it in. Versus, could God have actually made us all that different? Could actually, what I mean, even on this show, me and Emily Freeman, one of my very dearest friends, Emily P. Freeman, I could not think more highly of her. Our personalities are so different.
Mhm.
And we have gained so much from being together. And so the thing about fun is, a lot of people put it in this category of, that's what I did when I was a kid, or that's what I do when I'm on vacation, or
Mhm.
that's what the people who are irresponsible do. Because a lot of times we've misidentified fun as escapism, and said like, well, yes, the people are having fun, and what they told us in high school was, don't get drunk and don't sleep around and don't have that kind of fun. Well, I think it's time that we redefine that word and reclaim it, because that
Yes.
is escapism. That's escapism. That is not fun. There is genuine fun to be had in our everyday life, in the life that you already have, whether you're a mom who's staying at home with your kids, or a working woman outside of the home who's been home for a year, or every other version of what women are right now. There is a way for you to find out the fun that God has for you, uniquely based on who you are.
Beautiful. I wish you'd said that to me. I heard about this when I was growing up, and yeah, definitely another show. So
Me
here we
too.
are. I'm all about the fun, Annie. So people are probably asking, well, how do I start? And you say fun usually is
Mhm.
right where you are. So how do you make space to
Yeah.
then go, okay, I got it. I definitely need fun in my life. This year has been horrible. How do you start to be intentional about, it's like, okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to choose to have fun?
Well, what I love about your show is you're teaching us how to make space for a lot of different things. And I am a person who absolutely leans on my calendar to make space for what matters most to me. The reason we're getting to talk today is because you matter to me, and it is on my calendar,
Oh,
right? So, what I do with fun, and especially people who are starting to have fun, that it's not part of their everyday lives, put it on your calendar. Literally put it on your calendar. Do a 30-minute block once a week, even just on a midday Saturday, and say to yourself, okay, in this window, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have fun. And let me tell you what that does, Mel, is it, for starter, every day between that fun on your calendar and now, every day in the middle, you're thinking about it. What do I do for fun?
Yeah,
What
right.
how am I going to fill 30 minutes with fun? Right? So you're thinking, what am I even going to do in that window of time? And then that window of time gets here and you practice your fun, you have a little bit of fun, and then you reflect the day after, the after and go, well, that was kind of fun, but it'd have been more fun if someone else was with me. Or it'd have been more fun if the recipe would have been a little different than I tried. Or it'd have been more fun if that puzzle would have been of Mr. Rogers instead of a bunch of flowers that I couldn't get together. And you refine your fun. And so that
I
the
love that.
next week when I mean, I'm a big believer in Sabbath as well. And I know y'all talked about that. I'm a big believer in like making space to rest. And the
Yeah.
only way you do that is you put it on your calendar and you plan for it. And I think fun needs to have the same kind of intention, because when you start asking yourself what sounds fun to you and you keep saying, why is that fun to me? You're going to drill down into some really special parts of who you are.
I love that. And Annie, I love too that you say, in your book that fun, the reason why we need fun and why we want fun is it's actually about because we need home. That actually I never heard of that. That fun is
Yes.
actually, what do you say? Yeah, is actually looking for home. It's looking for Eden. I never heard about that. I
Mhm,
love that.
mhm. I think it's really true, because I think a lot of times, even tonight, if you sat down with whoever you eat dinner with, whether you're with your family, whether you're on a date, whether you are with friends, if you sit down and ask around the table, tell me what sounds fun to you. And
Mhm.
everybody answers. And then you go, tell me why. As we keep going on those whys, Melinda, what ends up happening is everyone eventually gets to, well, when I was little, dot, dot, dot.
Oh,
And that is because when we were little, even people who did not have good childhoods have moments that they felt the most connected with themselves and with God and with the planet, and have these like moments. It happens at concerts, it happens at sporting events, it happens when you're working on a recipe with your grandmother. And you have these moments where you go, this feels so good. This
yeah.
feels so good. And we want to reclaim those. What that feeling is home. I mean, scripture says that eternity is set in our hearts. We know what we're missing. We don't know have words for it, but we know we're missing something and we keep looking for it. And the frustration is we can't find it. But there was actually never a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There actually never was. The rainbow was the gift. And so there's something about this journey of like, why is that fun to me? Why does that matter so much to me? And how can I bring, because I can't go back and cook with my grandmother again because she passed away.
Mm.
She and that was in Georgia. I live in Tennessee. I'm not 8 years old anymore. I can bring things from that childhood, from that fun of searching for home into my adult life. I can still make those recipes. I'm not married yet, don't have kids yet. I can go get one of my mini BFFs, one of my best friend's kids, and bring them
Yeah.
to my house and make that same recipe with a child that I love and have a similar experience. It's different, but it's similar. And we need to go back and find those things and bring them to our today.
I love that. And you know what? I had chuckled, Annie, because I hated cooking pre-COVID and pandemic. I hated cooking. I was always ordering like
Oh
out or
yeah.
in for my, and my husband was like, "Oh, come on, Mel. Like, can you, And then the pandemic opened up all this time and I have found fun. And listen, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have like rolled my eyes and said that will never happen. I have found
Same.
fun in cooking. It was like this
Same.
crazy thing that happened this past year, Annie. And you wrote about that too in your book. And I was like, okay, so I'm not the only one. Like we're kind of rediscovering these creative outlets and fun
Yes.
in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes, because you know what happened is I had written most of the book. I finished it in the early part of 2020, in the spring after the pandemic started. But then as we're editing and continuing to write, I got to lay over a filter over this book and go, is this still true in a world that none of us have ever known? And what ended up happening is I kicked out a whole chapter. I wrote a whole brand new chapter. We edited differently. And my kitchen became really important to me. And I'll tell you why. I think this is true maybe for you too and for me as well.
Mm.
I need to make things.
Yes.
God made us to make things. And whether that's a gift for a friend or a recipe that only you eat, I need to make things. That is, God intended for us to take his creation and turn it into something.
Mm.
And that includes vegetables and meat if you like it, and bread if you like
Yes.
it, and cheese if you like it. And so that, I feel like that's what happened is in a year where we lost a lot of control of what we thought we understood,
Mm.
and where the simple things became impossible because the simple thing of ordering out food or going out to dinner became impossible.
Right.
The classic things, the slow things became enjoyable.
Love it.
And I think there's something for us to remember about that.
I love it. Annie, just this is my final thought about sort of this making space for fun. I want you to speak into just the connection of fun and following Jesus, because I think for sometimes that has not been together. It's been actually sort of like divorced from
Right.
one another. And maybe I just want you to speak
Right.
on my behalf. For all the people who said stuff to me over the years, is like, here's my
Yeah.
validation, Annie, go for it. But I mean, that connection, because I've been created this way, and I've always loved the party. I'm always bringing the girlfriends, doing girls' weekends. I throw the parties, theme parties, boa parties. Like, I love laughter and dancing and all of that. And so, your book and what you're saying just gives me lots of freedom. And so, yeah, what's the
Well, listen,
connection?
as soon as Canada will let me in, I want to start coming to
Yes,
these
please
parties.
do.
This sounds so
Please
right.
do.
This sounds just like me. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, one of the best parts about that we know about Jesus, everything about Jesus is the best, but one of the best things we know about Jesus is that if we are made in God's image, in Jesus is all of our personality traits too, because
Mhm.
he's all of it, right? Like, we're all made in God's image. And what we see in between the lines of scripture, now scripture is all true, and I'm not adding to scripture, but when we listen to stories about Jesus, stories like in John, where Jesus turned the water into wine, it says Mary was at a wedding and Jesus and his disciples were invited too. What that means is people liked being around Jesus and his disciples. They were fun to be around. And you see this over and over in the Gospels. He was invited to tons of dinner parties. How many stories do we have of things happening at dinner parties? And kids loved him. Kids absolutely loved him. Every time we turn around in scripture, the disciples are asking kids to get away, and Jesus is saying, no, let them come hang out with me. Jesus loved kids. Jesus loved parties, and Jesus loved dinner with friends. That guy's fun. He's
Yes.
fun. And we just haven't taught that part of his personality because it hasn't been the driving narrative of what the gospel writers were talking about, but it's in him. And so to me, I think, hey, you want to be like Jesus? Have a dinner party and
Yes.
invite some people who aren't like you. You want to be like Jesus? Hang out with some kids and watch how they do life. I mean, there is so much to be said for uh, fun that is not escapism, that is not sinful, that is holy and kind and good, and a reminder of the world that we are meant to live in.
Annie, thank you so much. I mean, okay, so next time you come to Canada, when it's all open, you're coming to a dinner
I'm
party
dying to.
with my girlfriends. Wear your boa,
Yes,
wear the
yes.
boa, right? Tiara, whatever you
I
need
mean,
to do.
this sounds I'm dying to get up there. As soon as the world opens back up, you and I are making a plan.